right now. Today is the day that you choose to change the rest of your life. It is time to turn your setback into the greatest comeback story ever told, and nobody is more capable than you. This is the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast, the future #1 weight loss podcast in the world. I am your host, Donato Russo. I hope you enjoy the show today. If this is your first time here and you enjoy the show, please subscribe and spread the word of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast wherever you are and to whomever will listen. If you'd like to connect on social media or wherever else, check out my Linktree page, Linktree/the Ranting Weight Watcher. Let's connect today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 189 of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you to the show. If you enjoy it, I'd ask that you please consider subscribing to the show. If the app that you're using to listen to the show allows you to leave a review or a rating on the show, please consider leaving a 4-star or 5-star rating. And if you can, write a review about the show. What happens when you do this is it causes the algorithm to update and makes the Ranting Weight Watcher just show up a little bit higher on that list when somebody using the same app as you to listen is looking for something weight loss related. The best thing you can do to support this show is to literally tell anyone you know about the show. If you know they're having the same issues trying to become healthy like you and me and everybody else, tell them about the show, show them where you listen to it, show them how other ways they can find it, anything you can do. Because look, I can talk until I'm blue in the face, but if I'm promoting my own podcast, I just sound like a salesman. But when you guys do it, it's like sending someone to your new favorite restaurant. They'll go much quicker to take in the content from your mouth than they will from anything that I have to say. We have another new financial supporter of the podcast. That's 2 weeks in a row. This is crazy. Thank you so much, Melinda, for becoming a financial supporter of the show. It means the world to me that you would consider the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast a worthy investment of your hard-earned money. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you guys, everyone who already is a financial supporter of the podcast. Thank you so much for making this investment. At where this goes, I have no idea how high, how the sky's the limit really in what we can do with these resources. I mean, all I pray is that I have the guidance on what to do with this stuff and how to use it wisely. I have so much to talk about today. Let's get into this. Journey updates. I am up this week 3.4 pounds. Total loss since January 2019 is 180.2 pounds. This is the first gain of 3, so I'm not going to change anything. There's literally no reason to make a change here. Sometimes there are anomalies, so I always wait for 3 gains in a row before I make any changes. So I had some pretty exciting things happen over the weekend. Now, if you have been here for any amount of time, you understand that in the past year, I have been battling an autoimmune condition, a situation that kind of just got added to my journey here. You also know that I decided not to follow the recommended instructions of treatment from my physician, and that I decided to discover my own path. The beginning of my search was probably in March or April of last year, 2023. I had discovered a bunch of supplements that could be purchased to help autoimmune conditions in general. Over time, because with any supplement that you buy, it takes time to build up in your system, I was starting to see things improve on my skin. So I thought, hey, this is great. things are improving. Let's keep it going. As I needed, I purchased more, didn't really question anything. As long as I saw improvement, I wasn't willing to question or, rock the boat in any way. So if we fast forward almost a year, or basically exactly a year later, so March 2024, I had come to a point where I had immensely improved my situation. I had come down to 2 sores on my right leg. Essentially, they would heal and then return, and heal and then return. I had 1 sore on either arm, left and right, that would also heal and then return. And when they would return, keep this in mind, they would return in the exact same location. So in the spot where the new skin had just finished growing, right on top of it, a new sore would show up. It was pretty crazy that it would be the exact same spot. I didn't get it. But I said to myself, in the process, also affected was my scalp. And still to this day, it is hard to figure out how much is actually on my scalp because my hair is in the way. And I'm not about to shave my head in order to figure it out for real. Here we are, March 2024. And I'm a little annoyed that these last few sores or whatever would just not go away. They kept coming back right after I would get them to the point that they were healed. And it wasn't even 24 hours. That's the crazy part. A lot of this process of trying to heal myself forced me to think of many moments in my journey when, in regards to the scale, right? So you would have a nice loss, and then it would be followed by a couple of gains or whatever. It would be like 1 step forward, 2 steps backward. A lot of this process with healing has felt exactly the same. In the beginning, before I guess what you could say, matured in my journey, I would freak out and it would be the worst thing that could ever possibly go wrong. Like, dying would not be as bad as a weight gain. You would think based on the way I reacted that would be the case. As we go through my journey, and I start to understand what being consistent really feels like and looks like, gains affected me less. And this happened because my work became so unbelievably consistent and I had such faith in what I was doing that I just kept going. It was not very long after that I came to the mind-blowing realization that as consistent as I was, the scale would fluctuate anyway. Even though the work I did was identical each week, and I had come to a point where I didn't even think about it, it was just part of my everyday routine. When this happened, it was a magical moment for me because I kind of looked at the scale differently that day. I said, well, that doesn't make sense. And suddenly, the chains that had been so valuable, the result that had been so valuable, suddenly didn't seem as valuable anymore. And it was also in this time period that because of this consistent work, that the gains should not dictate immediate change. And thus the 3-gain rule was born in this time period. Essentially, that if the scale went up for 3 weeks in a row, it would mean that something I'm actually doing is creating a trend that is also creating the scale to go up. If it was up 1 week or even 2 weeks, I would watch it go up and continue my work. On the third week, if there was a gain, I then would come up with what needs to change. And how did I do that? I did that by analyzing the tracking, analyzing the work. Did I exercise every day I said I would? Did I track it accurately? Is there anywhere I can improve on tracking? Are there things I started eating that I haven't normally eaten in the past? All of these things. Because of my trust in my work, I was able to look at my trackers with confidence in both the activity side and the food side. Without this accuracy, without this effort to have it be within 97% accuracy, I would never have built the confidence that I have that my work ethic is good enough to keep going. I also never would have developed the 3 gain rule in order to gauge if there is a trend. Now, you see, as on my weigh-in this week is a perfect example. The only thing different about this past week is that I went out to eat the day before weigh-in. My brother was only going to be in town one day, and then he was going to Orlando from here in order to meet some friends that they were all going to get an Airbnb together and stay for a couple of days in Orlando. I would never, ever, ever, in all of the time that I've been on plan, ever go out to eat essentially hours before weigh-in. I was eating at, say, 6:30 that night. We got sat down at the restaurant, and I was being weighed in at 8:30 the next morning. So what are we talking here? 12, 13 hours later, after eating out to eat, I was weighing in. Even though the anomaly resulted in a 3.4 pound gain, I can see that the week is an anomaly. Even if I step on the scale next week and it's another gain, I will be on a wait and see approach because it's 2 gains in a row. No changes are ever made unless there's 3 in a row. Do 3 gains in a row happen? Yes. Do I look at my tracker and analyze and say, hey, here's a trend. Here's something I don't normally do? Yes. Do I make adjustments and keep going and have the scale go back in the opposite direction? Yes. When all these things have aligned, and they have aligned numerous times, you have to understand that at some point, you have to trust your own gut. You have to trust the ethic you create. And that's why you always hear me talking about consistency. Because you know what? These anomalies will go away when you return to your consistent work. If your work is never consistent, you're going to be going up and down your whole life and going out of your mind. People talk about mindset. And I tell you, my mindset was built, and the foundation is the consistent work I put in. I didn't work on my mindset before. My mindset was forged in creating the work ethic. There are probably a bunch of you out there who listen to the podcast or who just know who I am, who think I'm crazy for watching the scale go up 3 times before I do anything different. And yet, I sit here 5 years into this journey, down 180 pounds. At some point, I began to trust my work more than I trusted the results. That probably sounds completely ludicrous. The only thing I can tell you is the Grand Canyon was made because over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, water was trickling past rock. And if you take a glass of water and you pour it on a rock, The rock isn't going to break. And yet, the consistent flow of water created a Grand Canyon that people go to visit just to look at. If that's not a perfect depiction of what I'm saying, nothing stops the water. The flow is the flow. It just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. And the chasm just got deeper and deeper and deeper. Because the rock said, with this kind of effort, I have no choice. And so eventually it eroded and became the marvel that people go to visit and look at. That's the kind of work I'm talking about here. Just like that water created the Grand Canyon, your work will bring the result. And it's not in all of the in-between results. It's in the consistent work over time. If you were a stockbroker and you sold a stock every time it dipped, you would be the worst stockbroker to ever exist, and you wouldn't have a job very long. Because peaks and valleys happen in stock. But the overall trend is what a good stockbroker pays attention to. Knowing the market, knowing what's happening in the world. A good stockbroker would be able to see a trend, look at what's going on with the economy or whatever, and say, hey, we might be at our peak here, let's sell. Or hedge his bets and say, this is dipping, buy more. It might be dipping right now, but it just means that the shares have gone on sale. And so instead of saying panicking and selling what he has of this company, he buys more thinking that the share is at a sale price. And he just keeps loading up and loading up and loading up. And eventually, the stock either dips further or it goes higher. And so all of the shares he accumulated at the discounted rate during that time period of the dip have all increased in value as well as the ones he already had. Why? Because he had such confidence in the work he was doing that he decided to bet on himself. And the risk he took in that moment paid off. I don't know how else to explain it to you other than that. The work you do in the effort to make yourself healthy has to become that consistent. And when you accomplish that, you will become that confident in your abilities to lose weight. The idea is that you come in learning and knowing one thing, and when you are done with all of this, when you're looking back in your years in the making here, you have not only mastered what you started with, but you have mastered 10 other things that you found in the process. That's kind of like where I'm at right now. In my transition to carnivore, the carbs have gotten less and less and less. And in the process, suddenly the 2 sores on my leg that I could not get rid of, suddenly one of them heals. And I sat there with side-eye glances, waiting. What's it going to do? What's it going to do this time? And that sore did not return. So I said, this is something. So I kept going. Kept transitioning, kept dropping the carbohydrates, And this was all forms of carbohydrates. In order for me to tell you guys I am doing carnivore, I have to be at 0 carb intake. We're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. I now present to you the Ranting Weight Watcher Accountability Creed. If you choose this day to say this creed, you are accountable to me, the author. You are also accountable to all of those before you who have taken the creed, and all of those after you who will take the creed. But most of all, you are accountable to yourself. Now recite with me the Accountability Creed. Nothing can stand in my way because I choose to be unstoppable. My challenges crumble in my presence because I choose strength when I am weak. My insecurities have no power over my life because I choose confidence in the face of fear. I own every last one of my mistakes because I choose growth over mediocrity. The mirror and the scale are powerless because I move forward in spite of the result. Circumstances are not obstacles because I see solutions instead of problems. The demons of my past can no longer torment me because I choose to renew my mind daily. All things are possible as long as I believe, because if God is for me, who can be against me? This is the creed I declare each day. It is about what I do, not what I say. I will learn the work that needs to be done. I will never stop, even when I've won. I will work consistently, no matter the cost. I refuse to believe that all hope is lost. I will work when I want to. I will work when I don't. I will work when they are cheering. I will work when they won't. I will work when it's easy. I will work when it's hard. The atonements that I've made are made with no regard. I will work when it's cold. I will work when it's hot, because choices have consequences, justified or not. When I think I know it all, I will start back at 1, because regardless of what I think, the work is never done. And from this moment forward, when times are tough, I choose to believe that I am enough. And we are back. Thanks for sticking with me. As I continue, I started to realize that I should start working on the weekends because there was an immense imbalance happening. The weekends I would tend to splurge and go after things I shouldn't go after and ingest a bunch of carbs in the process of the weekend. I came up with a plan on how to do it and I implemented it. I'm not anywhere near where I need to be compared to the weekdays, but I'm a lot less than I was. When I started the weekends, we're talking about 600 gram intake. Somewhere around there. Not exactly 600 grams, but somewhere between 400 and 600. And at this point, it is consistently under 200. But it's still not where it needs to be. So there's still work to be done for the weekends. As I made this transition on the weekends, the leg improved even more. And the arms improved. My right arm became completely healed. No sores, nothing. And another dynamic that has changed, which I am confident is evidence that I'm healing myself. These spots where the new skin comes in and it's healed, if I touch them, the skin still reacts like this is really itchy when you touch it here. Okay? Like right now, if I touch my scalp, I would have the sensation, an overwhelming sensation to scratch. Because I just touched my hair. It's part of the reason why you haven't seen gel in my hair very often. Because the act of putting it in there and the hold that the gel has is creating a scenario where my scalp becomes very itchy. So the parts that healed, like the spot on the back of my leg that never returned, I could touch there now, and there's no sensation that I need to scratch. I could touch my arm right now, and there's no sensation that I need to scratch. But over the weekend, I felt like this weird something touching my leg. I thought it was a bug. So immediately I swat at my leg thinking there's a bug crawling on my leg. And there was nothing there, but I did notice at that moment the last scab on my leg had fallen off. And when I went to touch the new skin, there was no itching sensation. I felt elated in this moment because I felt like everything I believed was coming to fruition. All of the stuff that I had done to myself over years and years and years of not caring about the nutrition caused my issue, and what my effort I was putting in was fixing my issue. It was not 24 hours later that the scab on my left arm had also come off. At this moment, I was completely healed from the neck down. That moment when both arms were healed, the leg was completely healed, it was like vindication. Vindication that everything I believe about the medical industry and the food industry and how they shake hands when they make the rules that they make, everything felt vindicated in that moment. I could easily have listened to my physician and kept a chronic condition for the rest of my life, fueled by the continued necessity of prescription drugs. But in this moment, a simple change in nutrition had brought a result. It didn't happen instantly. It happened very slowly over a year. Most of you guys get a result and the whole world falls apart in 7 days. And you want to flip out and change everything and maybe even quit. I know, because I was there too. But just like the confidence I built in myself to create a work ethic that would cause weight loss over time, this also caused results over time. The switching of nutrients that were ingested on a daily basis, taking in more of one thing and much less of another thing, all in an effort to heal the body, all came to fruition over the weekend. And then there was a return of a sore on my left arm. This was probably the most frustrating moment, probably even more frustrating than all of the gains put together in my entire 5 years. I mean, come on. Can I catch a break here? Am I not working hard enough? Am I missing something? Why is it that I can get so far and then have to take a few steps back instead of just getting to the point where I'm finished? Am I crazy? Am I crazy for wanting that? Is that too much to ask? It was very, very aggravating to have the left arm return with another sore. It was in this moment that I looked back, reflected on every moment with every gain in all of my periods here. In the period where I was not so mature and freaking out with the slight change in direction of a trend. So with the slight chance that I had a gain and I freaked out, I remembered those times. I remember those times later in years when my work ethic was so good, I could stare at 3 gains in a row, not bat an eye, go into analysis mode, make a change if necessary, and keep going. And then I looked at this situation. It is a perfect depiction. 1 step forward, 2 steps backward kind of a thing, right? After feeling a little bit of success, I'm right back in it. Right back in the fight. I'm not as close as I thought I was because one of the sores returned. My right arm is still clear. My leg is still clear. There has been no feeling of anything returning, no itching sensations, nothing. The left arm is scabbed over at this point and is in the healing process yet again. I'm not going to lie. It took a lot of analysis, look, I have a process. I handed something that makes me unhappy. I have a process. I have to reflect and I have to see the instances of, is there anything relatable to this moment? So much of what I'm dealing now with this autoimmune condition, the positives and the negatives are very similar to everything I've done in weight loss. The reaction in these moments is very similar. And maybe this was the start of my maturity in regards to the healing. Just like at some point I had to get mature and stop obsessing over every gain that happened for no reason. And instead concentrate on my work ethic and making sure that my work is the same regardless of the result. That no matter how many times I didn't like the result, my work would remain the same the next day. It's a different level. It's a different situation. But the handling of the moment is the same. They're related. I got a result I didn't like. I learned how to deal with the result I didn't like by creating a work ethic that would become so solid that I didn't even question it when watching the scale go up 3 times. Now my maturity in how I approach my healing is also a part of this and has very similar steps. I started the process of transitioning to carnivore with, at minimum, 4 sores on my body from the neck down, and however many that are in my hair that I can't tell. At this point, from the neck down, I have 1 sore, and still however many in my hair. This is what I need to hold on to. You know, something out there must really not want you guys to get this message today. Because here I am sitting minutes before I need to upload this, and I'm having to re-record so many things because for some reason, all of the files are playing at a slow pace. I sound like someone trying to mask their identity by slowing down the voice or lowering the pitch or whatever the case may be. So I had to redo a bunch of work in order to get this out in time. So some force out there doesn't want you to get this message. When I think about the past few days here, I think I experienced what I talked about, whether it was either last week or the week before. I told you guys that the most successful people on the planet, regardless of the industry they are in, 90% of the time, they think they're falling short. They think they're lazy. They think they aren't doing enough. They're looking at everything they think they could be doing better, always questioning their product. 8% of the time, they think they're outright failing. That why the hell are they doing this at all? And 2% of the time, there's this blissful utopia of success. And everything, the stars are aligned, there's rainbows, there's unicorns, there's leprechauns, there's a pot of gold. And everything's right in the world. God bless us, everyone. It's a Christmas miracle. That's what that 2% feels like. That night, when the scab fell off my left arm, I was vindicated. Everything I believed to be true was suddenly coming true in my own right, my own way. Forget what the doctors wanted to do. Their treatment plan only would make me worse. But yet, it's the approved treatment plan. And everything I had done, as simple as it was purely evident that night. I felt truly vindicated of everything I believed. No matter how many side eyes I got, the glances of, oh, he's nuts. He better do what the doctor says. I did what I believed to be the right thing to do. I believe with all of my heart that the overwhelming majority of the health problems in this country, in this world, are caused by what we put in our mouth. Which also means they can be fixed by what we put in our mouth. And that's how I felt that night. Vindicated. And then 24 hours later, one blister has the nerve to return. The nerve. Even though my leg is completely transformed, in my mind, everything was falling apart because the one on my left arm returned. It had completely slipped my mind how many times the two that were on my leg returned over and over and over again. But one returned now made me forget all of that. Because my leg is still clear. My right arm is still clear. But I have my scalp and I have my left arm. And I went and I had my tantrum. I don't begrudge anybody of their tantrum. You can go in that room with a baseball bat and you could break stuff. You can go to a punching bag and you could punch until you run out of energy, until you collapse. Go to a shooting range and shoot a gun at a target. Whatever you need to do to release the negative energy, do it. But I want you guys to recognize one thing. Nothing in this world will ever stop the bullshit from coming back in your life. There are always going to be extenuating circumstances that create problems for you. And just like the very successful people out there, just like they do, they recognize whether they are in the 2%, the 8%, or the 90%, that they have to operate exactly the same way. So when life throws its bullshit at you, you have to do the same thing. Go ahead, have your tantrum, break stuff, punch stuff, do whatever you gotta do. But when it comes time, when you're done having your tantrum, it's time to get back to work. It's time to do what successful people do, because that's what's going to separate you from everybody else who's going around in circles. And you know what? Because the storms of life are always going to come, you got to just know how to navigate, right? Because the one thing you can't do is you can't control the wind in the storm. You can't control the direction. You can't control the speed. You can't control that the wind is there, period. But what you can control is you can control the sails on the boat. And if you decide, oh, you know what, all this stuff is going wrong, I don't want to do it, I don't want to control anything, then when the boat sinks, it's on you. It's your fault. You did it. You decided not to do what was required. No one else is to blame but you. Because you know what? Everybody's got bullshit. Everybody does. And you know what? The people who choose to grab the rope and control the sail, those are the people that find success no matter what. No matter what. So what will you do today? Will you sink the boat? Or will you grab the rope and control the sails? The decision is yours every single day. I love each and every one of you. God bless you all.